Hey everyone, welcome back to Neighbor Wars HQ, where we expose the most insane HOA nightmares and entitled neighbor stories you've ever heard. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens in today's story. So picture this. It's a beautiful October afternoon. The leaves are changing colors, there's a crisp autumn breeze, and I'm doing the most normal, mundane homeowner task imaginable, closing my pool for the winter. I'm literally draining the water, covering it up, basic pool maintenance that every pool owner does. But apparently, according to Linda, yes, that Linda, the HOA president who thinks she runs a dictatorship instead of a neighborhood association, this was somehow a code red emergency that required immediate police intervention. But here's where this story goes from ridiculous to absolutely mind-blowing. Because when those cops showed up, expecting to deal with some petty HOA dispute, they stumbled onto something that would turn this entire community upside down. And Linda? Well, let's just say she had no idea that her little 911 call would expose a secret she'd been hiding for years. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you love seeing entitled Karens get exactly what they deserve. And drop a comment telling me about your worst HOA experience. Alright, so let me give you some context here. I moved into this community about 3 years ago. It's one of those planned neighborhoods where everything looks Pinterest perfect from the outside. Matching mailboxes, manicured lawns, strict paint color palettes. You know the type. When I bought the house, the biggest selling point was the gorgeous in-ground pool in the backyard. The previous owners had installed it just 2 years before selling, so it was practically brand new. Crystal clear water, beautiful tile work, professional-grade filtering system. It was absolutely perfect. Now, I need to tell you about Linda. Linda Henderson, age 57, HOA president for the last 8 years. And when I say president, I mean she treated this position like she was running a small country. This woman had HOA rules for everything. And I mean everything. The grass couldn't be taller than 5 inches. Christmas decorations could only go up between December 1st and January 10th, not one day earlier or later. Your car couldn't be parked in your driveway overnight unless it was actively being washed. Trash cans had to be brought in within 3 hours of pickup. Garden gnomes were explicitly banned. She even tried to regulate what kind of birds people could feed in their yards. I'm not kidding. This woman sent a formal violation notice to elderly Mr. Peterson because crows were eating from his bird feeder, and according to her interpretation of the HOA bylaws, only aesthetically pleasing songbirds were permitted. When I first moved in, Linda showed up on my door with a 3-ring binder. I kid you not. 3-ring binder containing every single HOA rule, regulation, covenant, and restriction. She stood on my porch for 45 minutes going through highlighted sections about pool maintenance. According to Linda, pools had to be maintained at specific chemical levels, which had to be tested and reported to the HOA monthly. The pool area had to be visible from the street for safety inspections. And here's the kicker. Pool closures for winter had to be approved by the HOA board at least 30 days in advance and performed by an HOA-approved contractor. Now, I'm a pretty reasonable guy. I follow rules that make sense. But this was absolutely ridiculous. This was MY property, my pool, on MY land that I paid for with MY money. And I had closed pools before. My parents had one growing up, and I'd helped them winterize it every year for a decade. But to keep the peace, I played along for the first 2 years. I submitted my ridiculous monthly chemical reports. I hired their overpriced approved contractor to close the pool, which cost me $800 each time when I could do it myself for basically free. But this year I was done playing Linda's games. So October rolls around, and it's time to close the pool. Now, I had learned something interesting over the summer. I'd become friends with Tom, who lived 2 streets over. Tom had been in this neighborhood for 12 years, and he told me something fascinating. He said, all these HOA rules Linda talks about half of them aren't actually in the official HOA bylaws. She just makes stuff up and hopes people don't check. This was a revelation. So I actually read the entire HOA covenant, all 87 pages of it. And you know what I found? Nothing about monthly pool chemical reports. Nothing about HOA-approved contractors for pool closing. Nothing about any of this stuff Linda had been enforcing. The only actual rule about pools was a basic safety requirement that they be properly maintained and secured to prevent accidents. That's it. Armed with this knowledge, I decided I was closing my own pool this year. I bought all the supplies, winterizing chemicals, the pool cover, plug for the jets, everything I needed. I picked a perfect Saturday in mid-October. I started around 9 a.m. It's a process, you know. First, you balance all the chemicals one last time. Then you lower the water level below the skimmer. You blow out all the lines with a shop vac, add antifreeze to the plumbing, plug everything up, and finally put on the cover and water bags to hold it down. I was maybe 2 hours into this process, working away in my backyard, minding my own business, listening to music on my headphones when I saw movement in my peripheral vision. I turn around, and there's Linda standing at my fence gate, her face the color of a tomato, absolutely fuming. I take out my headphones. "Can I help you, Linda? What do you think you're doing?" She screeches. Not asked. Screeches. Closing my pool for winter, I say calmly. You didn't get HOA approval. You didn't hire an approved contractor. This is a direct violation of community covenants. Now I stayed calm. I pulled out my phone where I'd bookmarked the actual HOA covenant document. "Linda, I've read the bylaws. There's no requirement for what you're describing. The only rule is that pools must be properly maintained, which is exactly what I'm doing." Her eyes went wide. "How dare you question my authority? I am the HOA president. I've been running this community for 8 years. These rules exist for safety. Show me where it's written," I said simply. She couldn't, because it didn't exist. "Fine," she hissed. "Fine. If you won't comply voluntarily, I'll make you comply. This is a safety issue, and I'm calling the police." I actually laughed. "You're calling the police because I'm closing my own pool on my own property? You're creating a dangerous situation. This is reckless endangerment." And she actually did it. She pulled out her phone, dialed 911, and reported an emergency safety hazard at my address. I just stood there, absolutely dumbfounded as she made this insane phone call. She told the dispatcher there was someone performing unlicensed pool work, creating an imminent safety danger, and that police needed to respond immediately. After she hung up, she stood there with her arms crossed, a smug smile on her face. "They'll be here in 5 minutes. We'll see what they have to say about your little rule breaking." True to her word, about 6 minutes later, I hear the sirens. A police cruiser pulls up in front of my house. Not one, but 2 officers get out. I walk around to my front yard to meet them. Linda is already there, talking animatedly, gesturing wildly toward my backyard. "Officers," I say calmly, walking up. "I'm the homeowner. I think there's been a misunderstanding." The first officer, Officer Martinez according to his name tag, looks confused. "Sir, we got a 911 call about unlicensed construction and a safety hazard. I'm closing my pool for winter. Standard maintenance that I do myself." Linda jumps in. "He's in violation of HOA regulations. He's creating a dangerous situation. He needs to be stopped." The second officer, Officer Kim, is already looking skeptical. "Ma'am, is this an HOA dispute? This is a safety issue." Linda insists. Officer Martinez turns to me. "Sir, are you licensed for pool maintenance?" "Officers, I don't need a license to maintain my own pool on my own property. I'm just winterizing it, draining the water, adding chemicals, and covering it. It's basic homeowner maintenance." Officer Kim is shaking her head. "Ma'am, this isn't a police matter. This is an HOA issue that needs to be resolved through your association." "But he's breaking the rules." Linda practically screams. "Ma'am," Officer Martinez says firmly, "calling 911 for non-emergency civil disputes is actually illegal. It ties up emergency resources." Linda's face goes pale. But this is an emergency." "The safety, ma'am. We need to see this pool situation," Officer Kim interrupts. We all walk around to my backyard. The officers look at the pool, half-drained, clearly in the process of being winterized, everything organized and safe. Officer Martinez turns to Linda. "Ma'am, what exactly is the safety hazard here?" Linda sputters. He didn't hire a licensed contractor. He doesn't know what he's doing. What if the chemicals are wrong? What if someone gets hurt? It's his property, Officer Kim says flatly. There's no crime being committed here. And then, this is where it gets good, Officer Martinez notices something. He's looking past my pool, over the fence line, toward the backyard of the house directly behind mine. Whose property is that? He asks, pointing. That's mine, Linda says quietly. Officer Martinez is staring at something. Is it a pool? My heart starts racing because I realize he never actually seen Linda's backyard clearly. The fence is pretty high, with trees blocking most of the view. Yes, I have a pool, Linda says, her voice shaking. Can we take a look? Officer Kim asks, but isn't really asking. Linda's face goes from pale to green. Why? What does MY pool have to do with anything? Just want to make sure everything's safe and up to code, Officer Martinez says. Since you're so concerned about pool safety, we all walked around to Linda's house. She's trying to block the gate to her backyard, but Officer Kim sets her gently aside. Ma'am, you called us here about pool safety. We need to inspect. And when we get into Linda's backyard, MY jaw drops. Linda's pool is a disaster. And I mean an absolute catastrophe. First of all, the water is green. Not slightly cloudy, I mean swamp green. You can't see 6 inches into it. Algae is covering the surface, leaves and debris everywhere, and the smell is absolutely foul. But that's not even the worst part. The fence around her pool, which is supposed to be a safety requirement, especially in communities with children, has multiple broken sections. I'm talking about gaps wide enough for a kid to walk through. The gate doesn't even close properly. It's hanging off one hinge. The pool deck has cracked concrete with chunks missing, creating tripping hazards everywhere. The diving board is rusted and has a visible crack down the middle. And this is the kicker, Officer Martinez walks over to the pool equipment area and points at the electrical box. Is it supposed to be exposed like that? The pool pump electrical connections are completely exposed to the elements. Water stains on the electrical box, suggesting it's been getting wet. Officer Kim is taking photos with her phone. Ma'am, this is actually dangerous. This is a severe safety hazard. Linda is stammering. I'm planning to fix it. I just haven't had time. How long has it been like this? Officer Martinez asks. Linda doesn't answer. I speak up. Officer, I've lived here for 3 years. I've never once seen her pool not looking like this. Officer Kim is now looking at the broken fence sections. Ma'am, do you have children in this neighborhood? Well, yes, but... And you have a pool with no proper barrier? With exposed electrical equipment? With structural damage? Linda is actually backing away. I'm going to fix it. Ma'am, I need to make some calls, Officer Martinez says. He walks away, talking into his radio. Officer Kim stays with us. She's looking at me now. Sir, you said she's the HOA president? For 8 years, I confirm. And she's been harassing you about pool safety while her own pool is a disaster? She charges homeowners $800 to hire approved contractors for pool closings. Makes us submit monthly chemical reports. Has all these rules about pool maintenance. Officer Kim looks disgusted, while her own pool is completely neglected and genuinely dangerous. Officer Martinez comes back. Code enforcement is on their way. So, is the fire marshal. That electrical situation is a serious fire hazard. Linda starts crying. Actualteas. Please, I can fix this. I'll hire someone today. Ma'am, you should have hired someone 3 years ago, Officer Martinez says sternly. You've been running an HOA while your own property violates basic safety codes. That's called hypocrisy. And in this case, it's actually criminal negligence. This is when my brain starts connecting dots. Officers, can I ask you something? Linda requires homeowners to use specific HOA-approved contractors for pool work. What if she was getting kickbacks from those contractors? Officer Kim's eyes light up. That would be fraud. Linda's face goes white. I would never, ma'am. Wouldn't need documentation of your HOA contractor approval process, Officer Martinez says. And we'll need a list of all contractors you've referred homeowners to and any financial connections you have with those contractors. And that is when Linda stops talking and says the magic words. I want a lawyer. So the code enforcement officer arrives, then the fire marshal, and suddenly my quiet Saturday of pool closing has turned into a full-scale investigation scene. The fire marshal takes one look at Linda's electrical setup and immediately red tags the entire pool area. This needs to be shut down immediately. This is a Class A fire hazard. One spark, and this whole area could go up. The code enforcement officer is documenting every violation, and there are dozens. Structural issues, safety violations, health code violations, electrical violations, you name it. But here's where it gets really interesting. Officer Kim asks me, "Do you still have your records of the HOA contractor you hired?" "I do. I keep all my home maintenance records." I pull up the invoices on my phone. "And how much did you pay?" $800 each year. She shows the invoice to Officer Martinez. "Look at this company name. It's Prestige Pool Services, LLC. Officer Martinez is already on his computer in the squad car. After a few minutes, he comes back out. "Very interesting. Prestige Pool Services, LLC was registered 3 months after she became HOA president. Want to guess who one of the registered members is? Linda? I guess. Her husband, Richard Henderson." My jaw drops. She's been forcing homeowners to hire her own company and charging premium rates, Officer Kim adds. This is textbook fraud and abuse of fiduciary duty. Over the next hour, more pieces fall into place. The officers contact other homeowners in the neighborhood. Everyone has similar stories, forced to use approved contractors that were way overpriced, threatened with fines if they didn't comply, Linda making up rules that weren't in the actual bylaws. Tom from 2 Streets overcomes down when he hears what's happening. He tells the officers, "She fined me $500 last year for closing my pool myself. I had to pay it, or she threatened to put a lien on my house." Another neighbor, Sarah, says Linda forced her to repaint her entire house because the beige color she chose wasn't the approved shade, even though the bylaws just said neutral colors. The approved contractor Linda insisted she use? Another company owned by Linda's family members. It's a whole racket. Linda has been running the HOA like a protection scheme, inventing rules, forcing homeowners to use her family's businesses, and pocketing the profits for years. The officers inform Linda she's going to be investigated for fraud, embezzlement, abuse of fiduciary duty, criminal negligence for her dangerous pool, filing a false police report for her bogus 911 call. Linda is completely falling apart now. She's sobbing, trying to explain that she just wanted to maintain property values and didn't mean for it to go this far. Officer Martinez is not sympathetic. "Ma'am, you've been running a criminal enterprise under the guise of an HOA for years. You've extorted your neighbors. You've endangered children with your neglected pool while harassing others about safety. And you wasted emergency resources with a false 911 call because a homeowner dared to challenge your authority." They don't arrest her that day, but they do issue her multiple citations, red tag her property, and inform her that the county prosecutor will be reviewing charges. Next week is insane. First, word spreads through the neighborhood like wildfire. Every homeowner who ever got a bogus violation from Linda is suddenly comparing notes. We discover that over her 8-year reign of terror, she's collected over $200,000 in fines, forced homeowners to spend probably close to $1 million on her family's contractor businesses, and invented literally dozens of fake rules. An emergency HOA meeting is called. Over 200 homeowners show up, the biggest turnout in the community's history. Linda tries to attend, but is literally shouted down. The crowd votes unanimously to remove her as president, immediately suspend the entire board for enabling her hire an independent auditor to review all HOA finances, hire a lawyer to review all violations and fines from the past 8 years. The audit reveals even more fraud. Linda had been paying herself a consulting fee of $5,000 per month from HOA dues. This was never voted on or disclosed. She'd also been billing the HOA for pool inspections that never happened. Her family's contractor businesses had been charging the HOA for community maintenance that was either severely overpriced or never actually performed. In total, the audit estimates Linda and her family stole over $400,000 from the community. The criminal charges come next. The county prosecutor charges Linda with 23 counts of fraud, 14 counts of embezzlement, 7 counts of criminal negligence, 1 count of filing a false police report, racketeering. Yes, RICO charges. Her husband, Richard, is also charged as a co-conspirator for his role in the contractor scheme. The HOA files a massive civil lawsuit to recover all the stolen money, plus damages. But here's the best part. Remember all those homeowners who paid bogus fines? The new HOA board votes to refund every single fine Linda issued that wasn't based on actual bylaws. We're talking over $200,000 in refunds. I personally get back $1,600, the 2 years of pool closing fines I paid for refusing to hire her contractor the first time I pushed back. Linda's house goes up for sale within a month. She and Richard are desperate to pay legal fees. But here's the karma. Because of the red tags and code violations, they can't sell until everything's fixed. The repairs cost them over $50,000. When they finally do sell, it's at a huge loss. They move out of state in disgrace. The community also implements new rules, actual rules, voted on by homeowners. HOA board members can't have financial interests in any contractors they recommend. All fines must cite specific bylaw sections. Homeowners have the right to challenge any violation with a hearing. The board must publish monthly financial reports. Board members serve maximum 2-year terms. As for me, I finished closing my pool that same Saturday without any interference. It takes me about 6 hours total, saves me $800, and feels amazing. I also got elected to the new HOA board. Ironic, right? But I run on a platform of transparency and actual community service, not dictatorship. I won by a landslide. The following summer, when I open my pool back up, half the neighborhood comes over for a pool party. We celebrate the end of Linda's reign of terror with burgers, cold drinks, and the knowledge that justice was served. Tom brings a cake decorated with the words, "No more fake rules." Everyone laughs. Everyone shares their Linda horror stories. It's therapeutic. And every time I look at my pool now, perfectly maintained by me, with no HOA interference, I smile. Because sometimes when entitled people try to abuse their power, the universe has a way of exposing the truth. Linda called 911 expecting to get me in trouble. Instead, she exposed her own criminal enterprise, lost everything, and faced actual consequences. That, my friends, is what we call instant karma. So that's the story of how an HOA Karen's 911 call backfired in the most spectacular way possible. The lesson here? If you're going to harass people about rules, make sure the rules actually exist. You're following them yourself. You're not running a criminal fraud scheme. Do all those things, and you might avoid ending up with criminal charges and losing your house. If you love this story of HOA justice, you need to smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Neighbor Wars HQ for weekly stories of entitled neighbors getting just what they deserve. Drop a comment below. What's the craziest HOA rule you've ever heard? Or better yet, have you ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA president like Linda? Check out these other insane neighbor stories in the cards above. You won't believe what happens when you mess with the wrong homeowner. And remember, always read your HOA bylaws, document everything, and never be afraid to stand up to entitled people who abuse their authority. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we expose more HOA nightmares.